You want your characters to show up in their first scene and shine. Hey everybody, welcome back to Fiction Technician. If you haven't been here before, my name is Jane Kalmus. I'm a writer of historical cozy mysteries, and today I'm really excited to be talking to you guys about character introductions. Alright, a character introduction is just the first scene in which your character shows up. But we do want to take a little bit of extra care with that scene because, well, you know what they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and that's true of your characters as well. So we want them to show up in their first scene and really pop, be interesting, engaging, grab the reader's attention. There are basically two things we're looking to do in a character introduction. We want the reader to know something about the character, have an idea of who he is and what they can expect from him, even if that idea isn't totally complete yet. And we want the reader to feel something about the character, whether that is hatred or fear or amusement. We just want to give the reader a little zing of passion for each character, partly because that's a great reading experience, but also because it's going to help him distinguish your characters one from another as you introduce the entire cast. So I have 7 questions that I ask myself every time I plan a character introduction. And we're going to look at these questions through the lens of the first 3 character introductions in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. All right, we have 3 character introductions in that first scene. We've got the introductions of Albus Dumbledore, Minerva McGonagall, and Rubeus Hagrid. And we're going to look at these, we're going to apply the questions and ask what it takes to make a really great character introduction. Okay, but before we get started, I really want to grow this channel and reach more writers, but I need your help. So if you feel like I'm doing a good job and these videos provide value, please scroll down to the bottom and hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't, but if you really want to help me out, the best thing you can do is share this video on social media or with a writer who you think would enjoy it. All right, let's look at the first few minutes of Harry Potter.
I should have known that you would be here, Professor McGonagall.
Good evening, Professor Dumbledore.
So the first question that we want to ask ourselves about our character introduction is the character active? And by active, I don't mean that they need to be in the middle of a big karate fight or anything physically active. They need to be decisively active. They need to be taking action in pursuit of a goal. And that is very true for both McGonagall and Dumbledore. Okay, Harry Potter's parents have just been killed, and the professors are here to deliver the infant Harry to his aunt and uncle, the Dursleys. So yes, this is absolutely a decisive action. Our second question is, does the action accurately reflect the character? That is, does it imply something about the character that is both true and important? And in the case of Dumbledore, yeah, absolutely. Dumbledore is always the mastermind of the good guys' plans in the Harry Potter series, and so showing up here, deciding what will happen to the orphaned Harry and making sure it gets carried out is a very Dumbledore thing to do. For McGonagall, it's a little bit more ambiguous. She's disguised as a cat, but she's not really a sneaky character. What she's doing is just sort of following Dumbledore's lead. And while that is something that she does consistently throughout the series, it's just a little bit less clear what exactly we're learning about McGonagall here. And the third question is the character's voice established? So yes, in this scene in the movie, we're relying mostly on the performances of the actors to establish voices for the characters, and they do that very well. But of course, if you're a novelist like I am, then you don't have that tool. So we're going to look at how the voices are established in the text of the book. McGonagall says, "I suppose he really has gone, Dumbledore?" "It certainly seems so," said Dumbledore. "We have much to be thankful for. Would you care for a lemon drop?" "A what?" "A lemon drop. They're a sort of muggle sweet I'm rather fond of." "No, thank you," said Professor McGonagall coldly, as though she didn't think this was the moment for lemon drops. So, yeah, that is completely their voices. Dumbledore is a genial man who, despite the great responsibility of his role, is given to whimsical digressions, like talking about these lemon drops. And he does this several other times throughout the introduction and kind of establishes that this is his voice. And McGonagall, well, she's a bit of a scold. So here we have both of their voices very clearly established in the first pages of their introduction, and that really helps build that reader connection and understanding of who we're dealing with. The next question we're going to ask ourselves is, does the character have a moment of nobility or a moment of humanity? Okay, a moment of nobility is a moment where we can see the character's worth and kind of admire them. And this is often called a save the cat moment by writers because of the advice from the screenwriter Blake Snyder that a character should do something right up front that is admirable, like saving a cat. In contrast, a moment of humanity is more a moment where if the moment of nobility puts the character up here where we can admire them, the moment of nobility brings them down to our level and makes us see that they are just like us and we can connect to them. So, Dumbledore's moment of nobility is obviously caring for the orphaned Harry and bringing him to his family. His moment of humanity has more to do with the lemon drops and unsticking a couple of sticky lemon drops that he's left in his pocket. He's just like us. He's a little sloppy. As for McGonagall, she doesn't really have a moment of nobility, but that's fine. We're really only looking to hit one here. And here's her moment of humanity. Professor McGonagall pulled out a lace handkerchief and dabbed at her eyes beneath her spectacles. So we can see that even though she's already shown herself to be kind of aloof and cool and censorious and scoldy, she cares. And that is her moment of humanity where we connect with her. This is also going to be the answer to our next question. Does the character display an intriguing internal contradiction? Okay, so this is McGonagall's. She is severe on the surface, but with a heart of gold. And that really is the internal contradiction that is at the heart of McGonagall's character throughout this series. As for Dumbledore, here's his internal contradiction. His blue eyes were light, bright, and sparkling behind half-moon spectacles, and his nose was very long and crooked, as though it had been broken at least twice. Okay, so Dumbledore, despite being elderly, kind, and genial, has a nose that's been broken at least twice. And this is kind of a clue to the fact that Dumbledore is a fighter. He will never stop fighting for what is right. We don't have all of that information yet. We just have a clue to it, and that's fine. It's not important for the character introduction to be a full picture of the character, but whatever is in there, we want it to be accurate. The next question is, do we have an emotional reaction to the character? And I would say in the case of Dumbledore, yeah, he's interesting and funny, and we hold him in admiration because even the severe McGonagall seems to hold him in admiration. As for McGonagall, there's less of an emotional reaction here. She is largely in this scene to give Dumbledore somebody to talk to, and so there's less of her to really hang on to and have an emotional reaction to. And our last question is the introduction visually interesting? Okay, and in both of these cases, yeah. Dumbledore's putting out lights, McGonagall's a cat. This question is the last because it is also the least of the questions, okay? If I can introduce my character in the middle of a jazz marathon or a spacewalk, I absolutely will, but I don't elevate this question above any of the others I'm asking myself when I'm planning an introduction because, well, it's not really introduction. It's just the setting for the introduction, and it doesn't really contribute information or feelings about the character. That being said, it is nice to give your reader that little bit of visual eye candy, and so I will definitely do it if it works for the logic of the scene. All right, now we get to take a look at my favorite character introduction of all time, Hagrid. Okay, and the dude is going to check all of our boxes. He is going to be active, and the specific action he takes is going to go directly to the heart of his character. He's going to get to us emotionally. We're going to hear his voice very strongly. He's going to have a great moment of humanity where we get to identify with him, and a moment of nobility where we get to admire him. We'll see an intriguing internal contrast, and is the introduction visually interesting? Yup. All right, what is Hagrid's action during his character introduction? Well, he's roaring in on a big ol' magical motorcycle, bearing with him an infant child. And this action really could not be more Hagrid. It reveals things that are true and important about his character because he really is rough and tumble, big and burly, but also incredibly tenderhearted. This is the internal contrast that is at the heart of Hagrid's character throughout the Harry Potter series. And this moment is obviously his moment of humanity. Dude just saved a baby. His moment of nobility. As for his moment of humanity, here it is now. Then, suddenly, Hagrid let out a howl like a wounded dog. "Sorry," sobbed Hagrid, taking out a large spotted handkerchief and burying his face in it, "but I can't stand it. Lily and James dead, and poor little Harry off to live with the Muggles." So from this quote, we can see that Hagrid's voice is clearly established as Cockney accented, and we have a big emotional reaction to him because he is feeling things so deeply. And as for a visually interesting intro, well, Hagrid's enormous physique was probably always enough to cover that base, but just for good measure, we've got a flying bike. All right, let's take a look at all of our stats and stack them up against each other, because if you're not ranking and scoring things, you're not having fun. All right, we can see that both Hagrid and Dumbledore are pulling a full-on 7. They are nailing every question. And McGonagall is coming in a little lower. She's scoring maybe a 5, 5.5, something like that. I'm willing to bet that that correlates to the way that you feel about McGonagall. If you're a fan of this series and I asked you which of these 3 characters was your favorite, I'm willing to bet that you wouldn't choose McGonagall. And that's not that there's anything wrong with her, it's just that the others are giving us more. They're more interesting, they're more delightful. Okay, let's try to come up with a theory that would explain this correlation. We could say that the lesser quality character introduction is leading to a lesser quality connection between character and reader, and that is staying persistent across the series. If that's the case, that is a powerful argument for really trying to give every character a whiz-bang introduction and hit all the marks. But we could say that both the lesser introduction and the lesser reader relationship are the result of something else. Maybe it's just a reflection of how complex McGonagall is and how much work J.K. Rowling had put into her before she began the book. And if that's the case, that's still a powerful reason for sitting with these 7 questions and trying to answer all of them for each character, because it can help you find those wonderful little bits of complexity that can really draw in the reader. Tech out.